we'll start with the prayers and then we'll start with the Bhagavad Gita chapter. And I assume you all can still hear me okay? Okay, great. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, great. So we completed chapter 2 and we will be starting chapter 3 today. Chapter 3 is Karma Yoga, but a lot of topics are covered in this chapter. So there are several sections or portions in this chapter. We will go over them slowly and carefully. Okay. So the first section goes till verses 1 to 9. Okay. So if you remember, in chapter 2, Lord Krishna ended, or chapter 2 is the summary of the entire Gita, but one of the main concepts that was focused was controlling the senses and through that performing Nishkama Karma Yoga. So when you're able to control your senses, which means your sense desires, you can perform the duty or your work without desire for the fruits. Then that is the best way to perform one's duty. So when you're not driven by the fruits, for that you have to be sense controlled. So that is why sense control and Nishkama Karma Yoga are very closely related to each other. However, Krishna also tells Arjuna to fight. So the second chapter ended with Nishkama Karma Yoga and sense control, but still Lord Krishna is not changing his verdict that you should not, or that you should fight. So Arjuna is asking this question in verse number 1, that, "O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think intelligence is better than fruitive work?" And the intelligence here is referring to Buddhi Yoga. If you remember, we talked about that. If you don't, then you can go back and listen to the prior lectures and refresh yourself. So in the next several verses, 2 through 9, I will request you in just a second to go through them and try to understand. As you go through them, try to internalize what is being said. The essence of what Lord Krishna is saying there in 2 through 9 is to do your duty, but with detachment to the result. So that is the essence. So it's not about not doing your duty. It's about doing your duty, but in a way that one is not attached to the results. And Lord Krishna is saying that you cannot not do your duty ever. Even to survive, even to live, you have to do some work. At least you have to live. That itself is work. Your senses, your organs are working. Your stomach is digesting food. Your lungs are breathing. Your heart is beating. So in that sense, you are constantly doing something. So and of course we all know we have to do more than that to live. So one has to do work, but one should do it with the knowledge that the results are not what are driving the work. So do it with jnana, or with the understanding of not being attached. So that is the essence of jnana versus karma. That is what Lord Krishna is describing in the first 9 verses. Please take 3 minutes, go over those, try to understand as much as you can from the translations of 2 through 9. Okay, and then we will come back and pick up from there. Okay, done. 30 seconds more. Okay. So several points are being covered. So in text number 3, Lord Krishna is saying, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service." So the words used here are Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam and Karma Yogena Yoginam. So Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga. And as I had explained earlier, Srila Prabhupada is generally translating Karma Yoga as devotional service here. So the reason for why Srila Prabhupada is explaining it in that way, I had explained in one of the previous classes. In summary, the reason is that that is the actual understanding of the entire Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna has himself not developed that overall understanding that Karma Yoga means working in devotional service. Right now, Lord Krishna is simply saying that do your duty. Later on in the Bhagavad Gita, he will say, do the duty that I tell you to do. And whatever Lord Krishna tells us to do or tells Arjuna to do becomes devotional service because that is directly Lord Krishna's instructions. So similarly, for us, we should do the things that Krishna has asked or instructed us to do at a general level. Now, we are not as fortunate as Arjuna to get direct personal instructions from Krishna, but we get personal instructions through the medium of Krishna's instructions and through the medium of our guru or our reading of the scriptures and through Paramatma in our heart. Many ways, but we will cover that as we go along. As I had explained earlier, there's a whole chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm sorry, not a whole chapter, but a whole canto in Srimad Bhagavatam called The Duties of Mankind or Duties of Human Beings. So that has a lot of detail on what are our duties. It's a whole volume of chapters. So there is no dearth of understanding what are our duties. So that is text number 3. Let's see, what are the more important ones here? So as you can see in text number 8, Lord Krishna is saying, perform your prescribed duty. For doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. So physical body itself it's not possible to maintain without doing your work or without doing some work. So doing your prescribed duty is better than not doing any work at all. Now in this section, there are two very important verses, number 6 and number 7. Number 6 is, one who restrains the senses of action, but one whose mind dwells on the sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. So controlling your own senses, or not controlling, but pretending to control your senses. But the mind is, you think that externally, if I'm controlling my senses, but in my mind, nobody can see what's going on. So I will continue to dwell on the sense objects. So let the mind wander on all those sense objects. So that is, Lord Krishna is saying, don't do that. That is not good for the person who is doing it. And also others will easily be able to make out that you are a pretender. You're simply pretending to control your senses and not actually you don't mean what you are doing. In the next verse, Lord Krishna is saying, on the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is by far superior. So without attachment, one should perform his duty, and perform your duty sincerely. Don't try to act, don't try to pretend to be someone you're not. Don't try to be pretend too advanced than you are. Making sincere progress in Krishna consciousness is very, very important in devotional life, in spiritual life, because one person is always watching, and you cannot pretend in front of that one person. And that one person is Krishna. He is in everyone's heart, and you cannot pretend in front of him. He knows the reality, and you know the reality. Two people know the full reality. So there's no point in pretending. Be sincere. No need to fool anybody. In general, people will find out, and definitely Krishna will find out. I had actually today morning, there was we have the ISKCON temple here, and these days the programs are being conducted online. I had spoken extensively on this topic in today's class, a general class at the temple that we used to do physically in the temple. Now we are doing online. Today was my turn to give a class at the temple program. So I spoke extensively on this topic. That lecture is available on YouTube or Facebook of ISKCON Portland, and you can search it up and listen to it if you'd like. So pretense or acting in making spiritual progress is, who are you fooling? Who are you cheating? Yourself. And that's not, you'd rather just not bother in that case with spiritual progress. Go be a materialist. At least you'll enjoy material life till the enjoyment lasts. Why waste your time pretending on something that's anyway not going to give you material happiness? Or, spiritual life is not for material happiness, it's for spiritual happiness. Okay. Verse number 9 is very important. I'll go to 9 now. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. His is with a capital H. And in that way, you will always remain free from bondage. So, if you see there in the actual Sanskrit, the word of the work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu must be performed or has to be performed. The word Vishnu or any reference to Lord Vishnu or Lord Narayana or Lord Krishna does not exist. So Srila Prabhupada is adding this, that work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. So why is that? The word that is there in, now you will see in, this is kind of setting the context for the next several verses, which is yagya. The word yagya is there in many, many verses all the way till 16, or at least till 15, in the next section, which we will be covering. So one thing that Lord Krishna is establishing is the process of yagya. Yagya, now you may understand yagya to be like a fire yagya, with a fire pit and offering things into the fire. But yagya actually means a sacrifice. That is the English meaning, some sort of offering. When you offer something to someone, you're sacrificing it to please or to make the other person happy. So an offering or some sacrifice, basically, and if you offer something very valuable that you possess and you offer to someone that you love very much, then that's a real sacrifice. It's actually a sacrifice. I am not sure if you've heard about this story. It's a very old story, one of the world's most famous short stories by O. Henry. I'm sure you must have heard the name of O. Henry. He's a author who has written, he's a classic author from I think the 18th century. And he wrote a story called The Gift of the Magi, Magi. Have you heard of this? Anybody want to raise hands and just, I want to know, have you heard of this story called The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry? No? Well, you can Google it. It'll come right at the top. And it's the story of two people who love each other and, give very, very precious gifts to each other, something that's very precious to them. You can read about it. So it's an offering of love to someone you love. Okay, that's what it is. And I mentioned that because that is very closely connected to sacrifice. We typically offer, what do we offer to God? A banana, that's what we offer. That's hardly a sacrifice. I mean, you've got like 20 bananas sitting in your kitchen, you offer one banana to God. It's very hard to imagine how can that be a sacrifice. Or even offering water. Okay, you turn the tap or the faucet on, water flows freely. You can fill buckets of water, you offer a little cup of water. That's no sacrifice. Some people think, kill an animal, like, goat sacrifice or some other sacrifice. Well, the animal is giving the sacrifice of his life. How are you sacrificing anything? You maybe bought the animal for, $20 and you cut it, killed the animal. What's your sacrifice? Then later one may eat it. So you can say it's an animal sacrifice, but the animal is the one sacrificing. All you did was sacrifice $20, but then you get to eat the flesh. So those are the sort of the lower or the incorrect understanding of the word sacrifice. Real sacrifice means offering something you actually value very much, and you find it very hard to part with and give that to someone. That is sacrifice, something that you care about very much. And that's why I referred to that story, Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. Read it. It's a nice story anyway to read. So that is a sacrifice or yajna. So when one is having love for God, you offer nice things to God. Just like in that story, you offer nice things to someone you love. So that is the meaning of yajna. Okay, so I wanted to take a second to make it clear what is yajna. Now, all yajnas, the receiver. So when you, as I said, you offer something nice to someone, that is yajna. So when you do a yajna, typically you must have seen it's more like a havan, a fire pit, and you offer things into the fire. So how is that any kind of sacrifice? Even if you're putting a banana or some grains into the fire, how is that a sacrifice to God? So that fire pit is considered to be the mouth of Lord Vishnu. And you are putting nice things into the mouth of Lord Vishnu. And he is receiving it. So that fire pit is a representation of the mouth of Lord Vishnu. And you are putting nice things into his mouth. So that is yajna or fire, or a fire sacrifice, or, and you put grains, you put ghee, you put fruits, you put a lot of nice things into that fire. If you have ever observed a yajna, a fire yajna or a havan. And always Lord Vishnu is the receiver. That is his mouth, nobody else. In all the Shastras, it is written that when you do a fire sacrifice, all the offerings go to Lord Vishnu. And this is substantiated at many places. If you open 9.25, let's do some verse hopping. 9.25. Are you there? Sorry, 9.24, not 25. 9.24. I should fix this in my notes as well. What does it say? 9.24. Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha prabhur eva cha. Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta. Bhokta means the uh, the receiver or the enjoyer. So aham, Lord Krishna is saying aham, he sarva yajnanam, of all kinds of yagyas. Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha. I am the bhokta and the prabhu and the master, prabhur evacha. Okay. So Lord Krishna is saying he's revealing in the 9th chapter that he is the receiver or the enjoyer of all those sacrifices. So here it is not wrong when Srila Prabhupada is translating it as work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu must be performed. There is another reference in chapter 5, 5.29, the last verse, Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam. If you open 5.29, Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam. So of all the yagyas and tapasa, of all the austerities or the penances, so Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam, so he's saying, I am these things. He's going to say more things, who he is. Krishna is telling, who am I? So he is at least these two things in the first to 5.29a. Bhoktaram, he's the enjoyer of what? Yagya and tapasa. And he's many other things. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. We will cover this when we get there. Gyatva Mam, who knows that I am all these things. Gyatva Mam, Shantim Rachati. He attains everlasting peace, Shanti. So knowing that I am the Bhokta and a Bhokta of Yagya and Tapasa, Mam. So 5.29, Lord Krishna is also saying, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices. There are so many references to that, and it's a very interesting topic for me. But one last reference is given here in the purport of 3.10. If you see, Shriyapati, Yagyapati, Prajapati. So Pati means master. Okay. So all these things and many other Pati are given. Dhyam Patir, Loka Patir, Dhara Pati. Many Patis are given, master. One of the things is Yagyapati, which means the master of all sacrifices. Who is that? Who is that? Pati. That is given as Shriyapati. The first one is the revealing who is that Bhagavan. In the last one it says, Me Bhagavan Satam Pati. I am the Bhagavan, but who is that Bhagavan? Shripati. Shri is another name for Mother Lakshmi. She is known as Shri or Shri Devi. So who is the husband of Mother Lakshmi? It is Lord Narayana or Lord Vishnu. So Shripati is Yagyapati. So Lord Vishnu or Lord Narayana is the receiver of all sacrifices. So that is one thing. So unless he is the receiver of all sacrifices, unless we do yagya, so right now the concept is to do this yagya, and as I told you, the word Vishnu or Krishna is not in this verse, but yagya means sacrifice without the desire for result. That's what it means in actual context here. When you are sacrificing something, you don't want anything back. Just like in that story, Gift of the Magi, the couple, you know, the husband and wife who loved each other, they made sacrifices for each other, but they did not want anything in return. Okay. So similarly, when you do this sacrifice for God, you don't ask for anything in return. And that kind of sacrifice will make you free from bondage. O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. In that way, you will always remain free from bondage. That means that karma, that fruit will not apply to you. Typically, when you do a good kind of sacrifice is something good. You sacrifice something you like. If you give away something you don't like, then that's a sinful activity. Sometimes people give something bad to others. There are so many stories. The whole Katha Upanishad starts like this, that King Nachiketa's father was giving away bad cows and bad gifts to the Brahmanas because he didn't want those, so he was trying to get rid of them. That's not a good kind of sacrifice or a good kind of charity. In the 17th chapter, it will be revealed a bad kind of charity, or charity in the mode of ignorance, is to give something which you don't like rotten things. I was the treasurer of the temple here, ISKCON Hillsborough or ISKCON Portland, for so many years earlier, before I transitioned to another devotee. And I used to see in that donation box all kind of, torn up currencies would be there. So people, would, currencies which not be accepted somewhere, they will give it to God. So God will accept. So that is not a good kind of charity. So that kind of charity does attract some kind of karma, because the consciousness is that you are trying to give something, sure, but it is you are giving something which you want to get rid of. So that will create bondage. Or, you give it to some other person, like Nachiketa's father, it created bondage. And that is how the whole story of Nachiketa went on. You can read it in Kathopanishad if you want. Very beautiful Upanishad. Okay, we spent a lot of time on the first section. I was hoping to do this much sooner. Next section is about developing this thought of yajna or sacrifice. Okay, so it's very hard for us or one to sacrifice something very selflessly. Just give, and give something that you actually like very much. So that concept is very hard for one to implement in his life, usually. So the process of karma yoga is to allow one to give practice in the act of giving. So the philosophy is, you first give to the demigods, the Devis and Devatas. And Lord Narayana or Lord Krishna has a whole ministry of Devis and Devatas. And he's saying that in the first verse after that, verse number 10, that this whole ministry has been created. And those Devis and Devatas are here to give us material comforts. So you exchange gifts with them. You offer them nice things, they will offer you back prosperity. So with this exchange between you and the Devis and Devatas, prosperity will happen, but still it is a kind of bondage. But at least it is making one familiar with the concept or with the practice. It's giving one practice in the idea of sacrificing something, giving something nice to the Devis and Devatas. But they will give returns in terms of material benefits. Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu does not give material benefits. He only gives spiritual benefits. And he is not allured by your material gifts. Like 11 rupees, or not even 11, Sawa Rupiah, 1 rupee and 25 paisa, you go and give to God and expect that he will give $1 million. So, we try to make all these deals with God. God is not interested in our deals. He is really interested in our love and our devotion. But the demigods, the Devis and Devatas, will engage in this act of exchange. And with this, in this way, the prosperity occurs. And the idea is that slowly, this is the slow process, one will graduate up to the level of, okay, these are the Devis and Devatas. If they become so happy and make me happy materially, is there a higher level of happiness? And is there a higher person to whom I can offer sacrifice, who will, give me some more happiness or a eternal happiness? And so then there is a relationship that is developed directly with Krishna or Lord Vishnu. And finally, that concept of eternal happiness also goes away. And all that remains is love or a loving relationship with Krishna. That's it. That's the only result. The relationship is the result. Whether one gets eternal happiness or not is not why one continues to love God. He continues to love God purely out of love. So that is the highest stage. But this, as you can, the reason I explained it is that it starts with this, the process of getting familiar with the idea of sacrifice or yajna to the demigods. So with that understanding, please read till number 16, 10 to 16, okay? Take 2 minutes and go over it maybe once or twice. Try to understand what is being said. And the essence I already explained you. Done? 30 seconds. Okay, very good. So you could see here that there is this exchange going on between the Devi Devatas and the human beings. Okay. 11, 3.11 says the demigods being pleased by sacrifices will also please you, and thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. So you are interested in the results. You receive the results. So this is still binding. You enjoy the results, but this is a good kind of binding. You will at least materially prosper. It's not sinful. It's in goodness. It's in sattva guna. And in charge, number 12 says, 3.12, in charge of the various necessities of life. The demigods being satisfied by the performance of yajna will supply all necessities to you. So the idea here is that the demigods are easily satisfied, and they are satisfied even though they understand that you are offering these sacrifices for your own benefit. So it's not really a sacrifice, it's a deal, it's a business. You are looking for ROI, return on investment. So can you understand, sacrifice and investment are not really synonyms. They are not the same thing. Sacrifice means you sacrifice, it's gone. You don't expect anything in return. Investment, on the other hand, is you invest something to get something back, hopefully higher, what we call as a positive ROI, not a negative ROI. So in this case, it is more like an investment, that they will supply the necessities to you. So the demigods, the demigod is an English word being used for Devis and Devatas. They are much easily satisfied, and they know that you are making these sacrifices, but you are expecting returns. But the real sacrifice, I'll again come to that point, is to Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu, of the best thing that you have, with no expectation for any return. So let's see one very interesting concept related to this. We will again do a verse jumping. 7.22 and 23 we will look. So now, as I told you, the deeper we go into Bhagavad Gita, especially towards the middle chapters 7 through 12, they are the heart of Bhagavad Gita. They contain the deepest philosophy in the Bhagavad Gita. So here the deepest philosophy is being revealed with regard to this topic. 7.22, are you there? 7.22, Lord Krishna is saying, and you know, this is a continuation from previous verses, but don't worry about that. Just disregard the discontinuity here. Endowed with such a faith, what faith? Don't worry about it. Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. So this is about a person who is worshipping the demigods, Devis and Devatas. Now here is the important part. But in actuality, these best benefits are bestowed by me alone. Me with a capital M. So Maya, Kaman Maya. So Lord Krishna is saying that even though the demigods are providing, or it appears to the people that the demigods are providing the benefits, they are actually coming from Krishna. So the demigods are like ministers or administrators. You go to the water department, you pay your water bill. The head of the water department makes sure that your house gets water, correct? But is he providing the water from his own pocket? No. The state or the king, let's say it is a monarchy, and the king is the owner of the whole, whatever, you know, he is providing the benefit. The minister is just a person to do the administration. That is the role of the Devis and Devatas. Lord Krishna is clearly clarifying here that they get those benefits through the medium of the Devis and Devatas, but ultimately those benefits are provided by me. They may not know it. They think that the water department minister is providing the water. No, he's not. He's simply administrator. And then in 23, Lord Krishna is advancing or developing that thought even more. He is saying that men of small intelligence, Alpa Medhasam, that is the Sanskrit. Alpa Medhasa means intelligence. So Alpa means small. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. So here it is being now, Krishna is clarifying that those fruits or those benefits you get by worshipping the demigods, they are not eternal. They are temporary and they are limited. They are not unlimited. And he's saying that is something more. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. So which means that worshipping directly Krishna leads to much higher bliss, much higher happiness and satisfaction. Mad bhakta yanti mamapi. So my devotees go to my planet, my supreme planet. So there is that concept being described in that 7th chapter about a higher possibility than what is there in the 3rd chapter. So I am giving you this integrated or full understanding, but that's not yet developed in the 3rd chapter, because some of you may not be there with me by the time we reach 7th chapter. So I hope you will get the full understanding as quickly as possible now itself. But we will discuss more about it when we reach the 7th chapter. Okay. Now text number 12. So that is 11. So now you know how the benefits come from the Devis and Devatas. Now, this process of sacrifice and offering back to the Devis and Devatas is very important, because it shows a sense of gratitude. That's point number 1. And it leads to regulation. Regulation means you're giving back something. You're not keeping everything for yourself. So there is regulation. There is the sense of sacrifice, and that leads to the sense of regulation. So regulation is very important. And verse number 13 is very important, where directly the concept of food is being mentioned, that food which is not offered for sacrifice or not offered to the demigods is considered sinful food. So when you offer food to the Devis and Devatas, that becomes sanctified. And the best is to offer to Krishna himself. Then it becomes fully sanctified. So, but here in this verse, the thought that is being developed is to offer it to the demigods, but you don't need to do that. Our Kali Yuga in life is very short. You can't, first offer to demigods, then directly you can offer to Krishna. In 9.26, Krishna says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. Just offer me directly. Very simple things: fruit, flower, water, or leaf. And all vegetarian foods are that. All foods are, or vegetarian foods are water, flower, leaf, or fruit. And of course, milk is included. Dairy products are fine. Lord Krishna loves dairy products. He loves butter. We know that. Okay. So this whole discussion is about yajna and sacrifice. So one must begin or start going into the concept of sacrifice. And verse number 14 is just describing that whole cycle. You do your duty, you do sacrifice, you will get result, and that cycle continues. Verse 15, one of the things to emphasize is regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas. So basically, the other thing to understand here is that Vedas, the 90% of content in the Vedas is about regulated sense gratification. How to gratify your senses, but in a regulated way through this process of sacrifice to the Devis and Devatas. But that is not the essence of the Vedas. So Vedas are taking Vedas are timeless. They are meant for all ages. In Kali Yuga especially, we have very little time. And our minds are occupied with too many things. So we cannot afford, and we had studied this in the 2nd chapter, Lord Krishna completely says, don't worry about the Vedas. Focus on the essence of the Vedas, not the content. What we call as the letter and spirit. What Krishna is saying, don't focus on the letter of the Vedas, focus on the spirit of the Vedas. And the spirit of the Vedas is to worship or to devote one's life to Krishna or to Vishnu. That is the essence. So one should short circuit this whole process of karma yoga, of offering sacrifices to devis, devatas, and all that can be completely short circuited, and directly go offer our sacrifices to Krishna. The aspect of devotional service to Krishna or Vishnu is hidden in the last portion of the Vedas, but those are meant for other ages. So one should not get too entangled with, oh, Vedas say this and that and that and that. Those are meant for other ages, whereas Bhagavad Gita is exclusively given to us, though it contains all the knowledge, but the focus is for us in Kali Yuga. Okay, so the Vedas take us through a long route of gradually bringing up ourselves from sense gratification, first regulated, then less, less and less sense gratification. Ultimately, after a very long time, it brings out the concept of devotional service to Krishna. Okay, so that is the thought that is developed till number 16. Now comes a very important section. The highest level, now Lord Krishna is saying, now the highest level of karma yoga is nishkama karma yoga. All this was sakama karma yoga. You see, sakama means I want some benefits. I am sacrificing something, but I want some benefits also. Now at the beginning stages, it could be I want to sacrifice 1%, I want 99%. Right? You brought 20 bananas, you gave one to Krishna. You put it in the Havan Kund, let's say. One banana is gone. You have 19 yourself. Okay? That is sakama. As you progress, you may offer 19 and have just one. Maybe. Right? Now, Krishna is not heartless. He will make sure you're fed and all that. But that's the point. You see, that is sakama. With varying, the point is varying degrees of some for me, some for Krishna. 17, 18, 19 are talking about 100% nishkama. Nothing for me. But the thing is that it is as a matter of duty. As a matter of duty, one is offering everything to Krishna or to whoever is sacrificing, and all of it. And that is the highest stage of sacrifice. So please read. Okay, I will read maybe just 3 verses. So let me read. 17. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. So there is no duty for such a person who is satisfied in the self. So which means he is not looking for any external benefits, external desires, external fruits. The Sanskrit there is Atma Rati or Atma Tripta. He is satisfied in the self. Next, 18. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason to not perform such work, nor does he has any need to depend on any other living being. So he is not averse to performing duty. He is not for performing duty. There is no need, there is no desire that is driving it, but he just performs the duty, which will be covered in 19. So 19 is the core definition. If you want to select one verse from Bhagavad Gita, which is the core definition of Nishkama Karma Yoga, it is 19, 3.19. All the aspects of Nishkama Karma Yoga are covered. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, tasmad asakta satatam. Asakta means without attachment. Okay, without attachment. So here is saying asakta satatam, no attachment at all. One should act as a matter of duty. Karyam karma samachara. Karyam means doing duty. Karma means to do the duty. Samachara means to do it. So karyam karma samachara. So tasmad asakta satatam, always satatam means always. Not asakta, asakta. Asakta means with detachment. Asakta is a very important word. We'll explain the reference in just 1 minute. Again it comes asakto hi acharan karma or acharan karma paraman proti purushaha param apnoti purushaha, that one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment one attains the supreme. Param apnoti purushaha, one attains the supreme purusha, one attains the that person attains the highest destination. So what are the aspects of Nishkama Karma Yoga? Doing your duties without being attached to the results, simply as a matter of duty, and then the destination is also given. You attain the highest destination. So what is the essence here? Doing your duty without attachment, asakta. Yeah. Now that is not the full recommendation of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita does not recommend complete detachment from everything. It recommends attachment. And what does attachment become? If detachment is asakta, attachment is asakta. Okay. Asakta means attachment. So there is a very nice verse which is 7.1. If we go to 7.1, which is the beginning of the core bhakti yoga. Core bhakti yoga starts with chapter 7. What is the first line of chapter 7? Mai asakta manah partha. So you see the word asakta here means work in a detached way. But later on, what is Krishna saying? He's not saying asakta, he's saying asakta. And what should you be attached to? Or what or whom should be attached? One should be attached to. Mai. Mai means to me. So Krishna is not saying, it's not saying just be detached. He's saying be attached to me. Mai asakta manah partha. Keep your mind always attached to me. Okay. So, and then the rest of the verse, which is very beautiful verse, Yogam Yunjan Mat Ashrayaha Asashayam Samagram Mam Yatha Gyasyasi Tachrinu. We will develop this verse. This one verse is itself, we can spend 2 hours on it, but we won't. But we will do that when we get there. So I just wanted to draw a contrast between asakta and asakta. So far the thought that is developed is asakta, being detached, and that is core Nishkama Karma Yoga. And that is the key difference between Nishkama Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Nishkama Karma Yoga means detached from everything. And as I had already told you, Bhakti Yoga is almost similar, except that you dovetail everything towards Krishna. So you go from asakta satatam karyam karma samachara to mai asakta manah partha. Are you following what I'm saying? I'm trying to make it very simple, straightforward for you all. Okay, very good. So this is Nishkama Karma Yoga. Okay. Now, Lord Krishna is going over next 5 verses saying that why should you do your work? Let's say you're completely detached, so why do work at all? Okay. So he's saying at least do it to set a good example to others. And he is giving the example of Maharaj Janaka. You know who is Maharaj Janaka, right? Janaka is the father of Janaki, right? Who is Janaki? Janaki is Mother Sita. So Janak is the father of Mother Sita. So his example is given, and then Krishna is giving his own example. Even I do duties. Even though I am the Supreme Lord, and Arjun knows this. But he's saying, I also do my duty, because if I don't do my duty, then people will very quickly follow my example. Following a bad example is much easier than following a good example. So he's saying, if I become a bad example, people will very quickly follow my bad example. So that thought has been developed. So please go ahead and read till 25. So from 20 to 25, 6 verses is saying that if not for any reason, why at all to perform duty? So even if it's for no reason, perform duties just to set the right example for other people, at least for that reason. Okay, and then we will move forward, but that's the thought till 25. So maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes, 1.5 minutes. Okay, 30 seconds. Okay, so there's not much more to cover in this section 20 to 25, except that if one argues, why perform any duty? Or why not just perform the bare minimum duties to sustain my body? That's all. Why perform anything, do anything more? One can be a leader. Like we say, or Krishna says that if you have perfected your life, help other people to perfect their lives. That would be very nice. So Krishna is encouraging that activity here. And Srila Prabhupada has given a very good purport to text number 21. 21 is a very important verse. Whatever action, this is the general principle, and it is also the same thing that the same similar verse but different thought in number 25. But 21 says, whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. So try to be a great man, try to be a leader. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada is giving what are the characteristics of a leader. Walking your talk, acting on what you preach, or what you say, what is that? Behave as you preach, or walking your talk. So that is, good. Okay. Okay, then the next 4 verses up to 29, let me see. Yeah, up to 29, 26, 27, 28, and 29 are talking about, in general, highly materialistic people. So you're setting an example for others, right? That is the thought so far. Now, there may be people who will not take that instruction. You are trying to tell others, you are trying to set an example. You are talking and you are walking your talk, both. But there will be some people who will just not get it. They just don't get it. And such people are, being described here as highly materialistic. They are just too busy enjoying the material fruits. They are not interested in spiritual progress. This whole concept of nishkama karma yoga, or even sakama, to an extent of doing some sacrifice, some regulated sense gratification. They want unlimited sense gratification, no regulation. Very soon that leads to downfall. We have already discussed that. Even in the material life, you cannot have unlimited sense gratification. Very quickly, downfall will occur. So Krishna is saying, then you can leave such persons aside. Don't worry about them. A very nice suggestion is given in 26 is to engage them in some way, in some activity. Engage them so that you don't tell them that you are doing something spiritual or you are doing some kind of sacrifice, but intelligently try to engage them so that without knowing, unknowingly, they are brought to the path of some kind of progress, some kind of regulation. Okay. So, I have seen, my father, he had to deal with some kind of people who didn't want to work. He would say, okay, do a little bit work. I'll do the rest. I cannot do this. Just help me. I'm doing it. You're not doing it. You just help me to do this. They'll say, okay, I can help you a little bit. At least you'll stop, bothering me in the future. So for that reason, I'll help you. Maybe you'll just, disappear and go away. So whatever may be the reason, at least engage them in some way. And even if that is not possible, then finally leave them aside. So that is the thought that is developed from 26 to 29. Please read that. One minute. And as you are reading, I'm giving more time. I mean, it doesn't take 1 minute to read those verses, but read and reread maybe. Try to understand. And if possible, turn on your video, please. And also, maybe if you have somebody has just their initials or something, change your name to the real one. And yeah, those are our usual requests. And one more announcement I was going to make while you're, so okay, I think you're done reading. I just want to make a quick announcement. So I see 93 participants right now, okay? So Zoom allows up to 100 participants. There's a given plan. Earlier, there were more than about 100 people who used to join. And last couple of sessions, I have seen it has become less than 100. And that's usual, that's normal. People do drop out as we go along. So to make the number of participants more than 100, I had opted for a higher plan, which was pretty expensive. I consider this just as a part of my service to Lord Krishna, to pay for all the plan and Zoom and all that. So, but still, so basically, if less than 100 people are going to join, I'm going to cancel that plan or reduce myself to the plan which allows up to 100 participants. That will save me a lot of money. It was a pretty expensive plan to go more than 100. Less than 100 is very reasonable. So I'm just saying this, hope I'll observe for one more week. And if the number of participants stay at this level, I'm going to cancel that plan, because anyway, we can accommodate up to 100. So if you have friends who are not going to join or not planning to join or something, please let them know. They can always, listen to the recording that I post and catch up in that way and all that. And I'm making sure I say this so that it gets recorded as well, so that people who are recording or listening to the recording, if they show up next time, if the count goes above 100 next time, I will keep the plan. So next week will be the test, so to say, of whether we go above 100 or not. All right. So nothing much to say there. Verse number 27 is very important to note. Prakriteः kriyamanani gunaihi karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudha kartaham iti manyate. So why these people who are very materialistic, why they are not interested in making spiritual progress? The reason is given here. So if you ever wonder what is the reason why people don't want to make spiritual progress or don't take interest in spiritual matters, and for some of you, you can introspect yourself if you are in this category. The answer is that they think they are the doers. Ahankara vimhudatma, that they are having this ahankar, that kartaham iti manyate, that I am the doer, that I am doing, that's why I'm getting the results. So why make spiritual progress? Why waste time in spiritual progress? Keep doing hard work, or whatever you're doing that is producing the results, keep doing that. Spirituality and all is a not for me. It's completely orthogonal. It's completely meaningless. So that ahankar is there. But if you see in your life, again, we have talked about this before, you didn't, again, what does one do anyway? And our own life is not guaranteed. One could die any moment. One could, our intelligence, our strength, everything has been given to us. So many people look around, you yourself are born in such unfortunate circumstances. Why is that? People are successful at least because they were born not with any disabilities or any challenges. That itself is the first gift. And then so many things in life are given. So many times people get, think that, oh, great, I got lucky, or I did this, or so many people work hard and don't get success. So a lot is being given by providence. Even if you don't think that there is God, there is something that is coming together, the universe or the energy in the universe or whatever you can think of, something is playing a role. And it's then natural to go and investigate and explore what is that and try to harness that. So that is the first sort of motivation for most people to engage in spiritual topics. But those who think, I am the only one, I am the doer, ahankara vimhudatma, karta aham iti manyate. Karta aham, I am the doer. Iti manyate means he thinks like that. Karta aham. And they don't understand that prakrite kriyamanani, that the prakriti is the actual doer. The nature is making them do things. Okay, so that is a very important realization that's useful. And then verse number 29 says, don't unsettle them, leave them aside, and they will realize on their own accord. Okay, it's 5:15. Let's keep going till 5:30, and then we will take questions. I'm not sure if we'll finish the chapter, but let's see where we'll go. So 30 and 31 are very important verses. After the second chapter, the one verse in second chapter, I think it was 61. This is the next time Lord Krishna is mentioning direct reference to himself. Now here he is saying, so I'm going to read 30 and 31, and this is bringing us very, very, very close to Bhakti Yoga. Okay, pure Bhakti Yoga. So Lord Krishna is inserting that aspect here. Mai sarvani karmani. Mai. So whenever you see this word, you should, one red flag, not red flag, green flag should go up. That Krishna is saying, do your activities for me. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, Mai sarvani karmani sannyasa adhyatma chetasa. Sannyasa means to sacrifice or to renounce, basically. Sannyasa karmani or sannyasa adhyatma chetasa. So, surrender all your works to Mai. Sarvani karmani, all your karma. Sarva. Sarva means all. So, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. So, fight, do your duty, but in this mood or in this consciousness. This is borderline Nishkama Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Nishkama means for no desire. Right now, Krishna is saying, for me, do it. So there is a desire. Arjuna will feel happy. I am doing it for Krishna. I am not doing it for no reason. I am doing it to make Krishna happy. So there is a desire, but this is now becomes a spiritual desire because Krishna is a spiritual personality. So this becomes Bhakti Yoga. And the next verse, Krishna is generalizing that. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions. Injunctions means instructions or my advice, whatever. So my ya me matam idam. That's the important part. Ya me, ye me, those who matam idam. Matam means me matam idam. Ye me matam. That is the important part. Me matam. My advice. Matam means advice or injunctions. So those who do their work according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy, what do they get? They get free from karma. They become free from bondage of fruitive actions. So if you see here in earlier, not in 19, but there were earlier references that if you do it for no desires, you'll become free from bondage, right? Now, Krishna is saying, don't do it for nothing, do according to my instructions. And if you exactly follow my instructions, then also you will become free from bondage. Muchyante te api karma bhihi. Muchyante means free, to become free from all karma. So also another very important word is shraddhavantah. So with shraddha, so with faith that if you follow my words, you will be free from all bondage of the results of the work. So then you won't get any good or bad karma. Now, Arjuna is going to indulge, so to say, in bad karma. He's going to kill people. Right? In the war, that's what happens. But because it is being done because of Krishna saying so, therefore, it will not result in any sinful reaction for Arjuna. Neither will it result in any pious reaction. It will be a karma. And that is the best, free from bondage. Now, somebody may ask, why is Krishna asking to kill somebody and this and that? That question was asked in a previous class. I had answered it. Please go and look at it. So this is Krishna delivering justice. So Krishna has to deliver justice. It's not about killing someone or everybody has to die. So by dying in this way, they are paying for their past sinful activities so that the sinful activities get cancelled and then they can restart. And this time, hopefully do good activities. So the price has to be paid. You don't get to go away scot-free or Yeah. And then 32 to 35 are talking about, again, uh, um, detachment and controlling the senses. So please read 32 to 35. In that mood, one should follow Krishna's instructions. So please read. I read 31, 30 and 31, 32 to 35. Okay, 30 seconds more. Okay. So the focus again is to perform your duty. Don't pretend to perform someone else's duty. Just perform your own duty with a sense of detachment, and better still, perform the duty as instructed by Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna will give plenty of instructions for all human beings. So don't think that, oh, what are the instructions for me? There are plenty of instructions for all of us. Okay. Okay, 36. So then Arjuna asks a question that, okay, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? So what causes someone to do these sinful activities? And they are almost driven to doing it. They sometimes contemplate, maybe I shouldn't do it, maybe I should, and they just somehow, as if they're forced, they just do it, and later they repent, they regret, why did I do it? Or something, that they don't like doing. It may not be something terribly irreversible, but just something, like maybe saying something mean to your friend or to your family members, and then you regret, and after a few days it becomes okay. So it's not like your husband divorced you, your wife divorced you, but it does kind of create some tension for some days, and then it becomes okay, but then again you do it again, or something like that. Or and then you wonder, why couldn't I control myself? Why did I have to do that? Or why I was almost forced to do it, as if like somebody else forced me to do it. No, we are the doers. A very interesting joke comes to my mind. In India I used to watch cricket, and I know we have some cricket players here. um, India, when you used to lose the match, especially I remember this guy Azharuddin. So he would say, there would be some little commentary or some little, thing this guy would ask. So what happened? You lost the match. Yeah, the ball was not coming on the bat. this is a very common thing. They will say, ball is not coming on the bat. I would think, like, what does that mean? Ball is not coming on the bat. It's the duty of the batsman to hit the ball. What does it mean? The ball is not coming on the bat. So it's like putting the blame. That's a figure of speech, but it's like the tendency is to kind of say that it is someone else's problem. Someone else is to blame. I was ready to hit the ball only if it came on the bat. So it's like I was ready to do the right thing. Somebody made me do the wrong thing. But ultimately, it is we who are responsible for doing what we are doing. So that is what Arjun is asking. What is it that causes one to slip and do something which he doesn't want to do? So please read from 37 to 43. We might actually be able to finish the chapter, but the key essence is one main point is here. So please read 37 to 43, 7 verses. Take 2 minutes maybe. And the key essence, by the way, is attachments or lust. Lust is used here, but you remember I showed you a chart last time where attachment was at the beginning point. I'll show that chart again. You can look at that as you read it. That is the root cause, and that's being very clearly said by Krishna here. Attachment is the root cause, and strong attachment is lust, kama. So if you want to rectify the issue, find your attachment. What are you attached to? And it could be something very deep and subtle. It will take practice to figure out what the attachment is. It could be something very deep and very subtle. It may appear as if the attachment is something else. Actually, it is something different. So while you read, I'm going to display that chart again. Okay. Can you see the chart? Yes, no? Okay, good. So the focus of all the verses here from 37 to 43 is this attachment. If you can practice, get a good practice to diagnose the attachment and then remove the attachment, then these things will go away. So develop that practice, and it will come with time. It's not easy. Like a good doctor needs practice to diagnose the disease correctly. Otherwise, you may be treating the wrong disease. Okay. 1 more minute. Thirty seconds. Okay. So the focus is, I'm going to remove this. You can take a screenshot if you want. I'll leave it there for 10 more seconds. And at some point, I'll send some slides out. But right now, if you want, take a screenshot or write it down. So the focus is, is the lust. So what to do about it? And in text number 40, it is given that the senses and the mind and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. So senses are the ones, yes, which you can see something, oh, let me go explore more, let me see more, or let me, have more desires for whatever thing you are lusty about. You will go and explore it more, first in the mind and then through the senses. So first it happens in the mind, and then you actually take action on it. And in the next one, 41, Lord Krishna is saying that in the very beginning, curb this symbol of sin or lust by regulating the senses. So practice sense regulation, because the more one is attracted towards these lusty things, the more or the less one will get attracted to topics of Krishna. And one must control one's lusty desires for whatever. It does not have to, again, I will say, it's not just lust in terms of sensual or sexual things. It could be about anything that one desires very strongly. Usually it's those things that are at the top of one's mind due to his long conditioning, but it could be about something else also. And to control it with intelligence. That is what is the essence of text 42. With intelligence, one must control it. And the last line of text 42 in the purport is important. In the purport of 42, I can show that, or we're running out of time, but anyway, let's see. (42). But even though the soul is the master of intelligence and mind and the senses also, unless it is strengthened by association with Krishna and Krishna consciousness, there is every chance of falling down due to the agitated mind. So association with Krishna is what will give the strength to the soul and the intelligence. And last time I remember clearly telling you very strongly, fortify your senses with the weapon of scriptures or with the scriptures. So develop the taste for reading about Krishna or hearing about Krishna, his activities, his leelas or pastimes, his instructions, his name. Develop the taste, and Krishna or Rama or any scripture, God, if you're from a different faith, that's totally fine. Bhagavad Gita equally well applies to all faiths. So the important part to again remember is to fortify your senses with scriptures. So that is the association with Krishna and Krishna consciousness and devotees of Krishna. So that is the essence of the third chapter. So we completed the third chapter with this. So again, working on those attachments is very, very important. Diagnosing those attachments and eliminating them with the power of the name, pastimes, and instructions of God. I'm going to close this and stop sharing. Oh, actually, I anyway have to share because now we will do Q&A. My son is in a different room. I need a file from that shelf. There are two file folders at the top of the shelf in the lobby. Can you get those file folders, please? So let's I'll maximize this. Thanks. Interesting. These are not the ones. Actually, these are not the ones. Can you come back to the room? Okay. So every religion claims they are the best. It's probably that one over there, the blue one. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, no, 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 no. Okay, don't worry. It's okay. I'll deal with it. It's okay. Don't worry. I lost my file, but that's okay. Let me see if I can do this here. 1 second. Just give me 1 second. Okay, hopefully that should be fine. Okay. Okay. So the question is, every religion claims they are the best. There are too many varieties of religions. It's very confusing for non-devotees, especially atheists. And it seems that every religion claims that their faith is the best path. That's true. And how do we as a devotee can explain this issue to atheists or to those who are searching for spiritual knowledge? So very good question. So first of all, before explaining to others, one must be clear themselves as to what's the answer, and one must be convinced about the path. So I would say that if really the question is as it is written, don't worry right now if you are beginning to read Bhagavad Gita to explain this issue to others, especially atheists. You might end up in a messed up situation or whatever. So first focus on practicing the teachings of Bhagavad Gita yourself. The other, and then if really this is the question for somebody who is already beginning to apply the Bhagavad Gita and all that in their lives, then the answer is to not try to convince them that Bhagavad Gita is the only path. There are many paths that take one to making spiritual progress. Not every path may lead to the very top, but it could lead to a certain point. It's like, when you mountain climbers, if you see how mountain climbers work, there are different paths to reach the peak. And they see on a given day, depending on weather conditions or something, what is the better path. And there are multiple paths to climb the summit. Now, some of the paths may not lead to the summit. So they might get stuck at a certain point, and then they, in a mountain climbing scenario, they might have to climb down and now take a completely different path. So there are many paths. Let people try out various paths. In spiritual progress, even if you get stuck at one path, you don't have to come down. You can then see what other alternatives you can adopt beyond the point that you are stuck. Spiritual progress is always forward progress. There is never backward progress. So the answer to such a person would be, do an initial checking, see, examine, check out various paths, talk to people, do an initial exploration or assessment. And the more important thing is to start on one path, not keep sitting or not just keep evaluating all the time. In terms of, we are all diseased as in like material disease. We have a body which will decay. One day we will die. We have this short time. We need to make spiritual progress. So in that sense, if a diseased person spends all the time finding a doctor, his disease will never be cured. Ultimately, he need to commit to one doctor and move forward. So that is the same logic that applies here. So do your initial exploration. And the most important thing is to pray in your heart to that supreme being. You don't know who that is. That may be Krishna or Allah or Jesus or whoever, Buddha, but that supreme being, whoever, to show you the right path. Have that sincere desire, and a path will be evident or shown to you. And once you take up a path, practice it nicely, sincerely, whatever it is. Get to the essence of it. Go deep inside and try to understand and continue to follow it. See if your questions are being answered. See if you're actually making progress. There will be signs that you will see in your life about making progress or not. And quickly settle on a path. You don't have to try it out for a very long time. I personally tried out a few paths for a few years. I would say between 5 to 7 years, I was very clear that which path I have to take. And I have been on this path for the last maybe 15, 17 years. I'm very happy. So that's how I would start off. And then we can talk more about this question as we go along. Okay. Then there is this question about remembrance of the soul after death. The general question is of the thing that, does a soul remember events after death? And in the next body, what happens? Will the soul remember any injustice done to it and in the next body avenge it? There are many questions, and there is also a question about forgiveness. If we have done something wrong to someone, how can we ask for forgiveness if that person has passed on or passed away? So several questions are there. And this is a complex topic, not very easily understood and not very clearly or answered, or, a very specific answer doesn't exist directly in Bhagavad Gita, though it points to an answer. And in the Upanishads, and the Upanishads are a better place to answer this question. But the summary or the short answer is yes, the soul. So first answer is, it all depends on the specific situation. There is no one clear answer. This is what happens. Every situation is different. The soul does remember largely because it is carried by the mind and intelligence and ahankara, or false ego. These are the coverings, and the soul is seated in this bowl or in this covering of man, buddhi, and ahankar. One second. So the souls are covered with this, and then the soul travels into the next body. So there are impressions of the previous life that the soul does carry, and not just the previous life, but the lives before that as well. It also, the impressions are more strongly cast on the manner in which the death occurred, or the amount of suffering that the soul went through in that life. So basically, how deeply were those impressions there on one's mind, intelligence, and ahankara. And so all these factors govern what is one carrying into the next life. However, so it is said that right before, till the child takes birth, as in like comes out of the mother's womb into the world, there is a large, or that impressions are more, he's the soul, or the is more conscious of those. But once he enters into the world, he comes out of the mother's womb, then his memory is much reduced or much diluted. Only very minor impressions remain, and that too are taken away. And that is for a good reason. And one of the things I'm happy this person asked it in this way, that will he remember, so that will he avenge it if something wrong was done to him. Krishna wants, when you take birth in a human life, the purpose of human life is not to go around avenging the past life injustices done and all those things, take kind of settle your score with everyone. That's not the purpose of human life. If that was the purpose, Krishna would have designed it in a way such that you remember everything so that you can go and settle your score with everyone. The purpose of human life is to make spiritual progress. And the more you remember all this, the more it will cloud you, the more it will hinder you, impede you from making spiritual progress. So it is better that you don't remember all these things and only remember, or only are able to make spiritual progress with a clean slate. Now, Krishna, as I told you, on the positive side, if you have made spiritual progress in the past life, that Krishna makes sure the design is such that you automatically revive. We will cover this in the 6th chapter. And if you're curious, you can go through the last 10 verses of the 6th chapter. Krishna talks about automatic revival. The word automatic is there. Without even the soul or that body trying anything on its own, automatically that spiritual consciousness is revived. So the spiritual progress is automatically revived, whereas anything that is material is automatically deleted. So which is another point that says that from the Bhagavad Gita, that the purpose of human life is to make spiritual progress, not to go around settling your scores. It's good that everybody is given a clean start. Otherwise, you'll have all this baggage with you to deal with. Even in this life, when I am doing my japa or chanting or trying to do some spiritual activity, the thought comes, oh, this person said this today. Oh, after my japa is done, or after this class is done, I'm going to go get back to that person. I'm going to do this, do that. So the remembrance of this life itself is too much of an impediment in spiritual progress. Imagine the impediment of all your past lives if it was to be there. There would be no time for you to do any spiritual progress. So it is good that we don't remember. Okay. Now, on this question of asking for forgiveness, the best thing is to ask for forgiveness quickly. You don't have to then wait for that person to die and then you land in this dilemma. So for somebody whom you have not asked for forgiveness yet, and he's still living, better to do it sooner than later. That's the first thing. And the next thing is, if that person has died, then in your heart, very sincerely ask for forgiveness. If that person cannot hear, I don't know if that person hears or not. Maybe he's in a different body or whatever may be the case. I don't know. But there is one person who will definitely hear, which is Krishna. And he can do something about it. So definitely ask for sincere forgiveness. Okay, now it shouldn't be in the mood that, okay, good that you have died. I don't have to actually be embarrassed, since forgiveness comes with embarrassment. So you can say, at least I just have to do in my heart. Nobody will know. You won't know. I'll do it. So that consciousness is not pure. So with not like that, but genuinely ask for forgiveness from the soul of that person, and Krishna will take care of the rest. So that's how much I can answer about this. Now, this is another question. Why is it now? This is a very little bit, complicated. Words are a little complicated here, but I'll read it. Why is the past karma so overpowering that the efforts taken now with free will than the efforts taken now with free will? What do we do? And all these things are mentioned here. And there is a discussion about astrological charts and all. And the question is, how do we cope with these astrological charts, negative effects of the charts, which does not allow spiritual progress? That's one of the key parts of the question. What if the astrological charts are preventing spiritual progress? And then the question is somehow also saying, past karma is more powerful or overpowering the efforts taken from free will. That's the other kind of the question. So a couple of things I want to clarify. First of all, free will cannot cancel past karma. Okay, you may, with free will, all you can do is alter your future karma. Okay, so whatever past karma is there, you have to undergo the reaction of it. You can't, with your free will, say, aha, I decide to not, pay the price or enjoy the fruit. You cannot say that. So free will, you don't mix free will with the reactions of past actions. With free will, you can only alter the future. Then coming to charts. So first of all, astrology is definitely, I personally believe, astrology is a very fixed, good science, a Vedic science. So there's, I'm not saying astrology is wrong or don't believe in it, but it's just like medical science. Let's say you need a good doctor. The science may be valid, but if you don't have a good doctor, he will not give a good diagnosis. Okay, so and then, if he gives a wrong diagnosis, you may end up trying to treat a wrong disease. And then the symptoms will remain and you will say that the medical science is wrong. So medical science is not wrong. The doctor may be incompetent. So first of all, the charts and all, these days, it's very hard. I don't know of any solid way of finding a good astrologer, first of all. So the first problem is, what is the quality of that chart? Who has made it? With what, quality has it been made? That you have to see. The second point is that, let's say the chart is made correctly by a competent astrologer. Then spiritual progress is never hindered by astrology. Absolutely. There is no chart. I have also read a lot of astrology. There are books by B.V. Raman, if you know who I'm talking about, and many other authors. And in my college at IIT, they used to publish a monthly newsletter, and I was the contributor of the astrology column. I used to predict who will win the student elections and this and that, and it was a lot of fun by looking at their charts of the competing candidates in the student elections. So I have read a lot of astrology just out of fun, and I left it. But anyway, in astrology, there is nothing which says you will not be able to make spiritual progress. That's not something that astrology governs. Now, astrology does govern one's material situation, which indirectly can affect your spiritual progress. But that material situation is coming from the past as a result of the past activities. But still, the capacity to make spiritual progress is absolutely present. So, and the other thing is that destiny, the charts, very, very good charts can predict very precise events, but not so good charts, even if they can predict a general event. So mostly astrology, your charts are like a weather report. That if you do nothing and you're trying to go on a vacation and a storm is coming, you'll have problems. Okay. However, if you prepare for it, you may still be able to be fine. So it's just like a weather report where you can do something about it. It's not like a sentence that has been written that you cannot do anything about. Or you can choose to not go on the vacation. You go somewhere else. Like if you know there's a storm in Southern Oregon, you go to Washington, you go north, and there you take a vacation. So you can go around things and you can make your life work given the way the astrological charts are given. So you can prepare on it. But the point of Bhagavad Gita or of the class is to focus on Krishna consciousness or on spiritual devotional progress regardless of your material situation. And Krishna sees, given your material situation, this is the important part. Suppose you have very, problematic, very troublesome material situation due to your astrological charts, which are basically a result of the past karma, mostly. Krishna sees you have all these material issues and still you are trying to make progress. You will get the credit for that. Krishna will lower the bar for success. Just like, here, we see, if you are, from a poor school or in a poor school district, you get extra points in your college admissions or something like that. There is that thing about, if your circumstances were not so good, the bar for success is lowered. Krishna absolutely does that. Look at the example of squirrels and the Hanuman and Lord Hanuman when the bridge was being built. Lord Ram said, the squirrels are doing just as much service to me as you are doing, Hanuman. You are doing according to your capacity. They are doing according to the best of their capacity. So don't think that you are doing more, they are doing less. In my eyes, you are doing equal because you are both doing the best. So even if your material situation is very bad due to past karma, due to your astrological, or which is coming out or showing up in your astrological charts, no problem. You put in your most sincere effort and Krishna will treat that as successful. So the idea is to continue to do devotional service with sincerity without worrying about what your charts are saying. Where's the mouse? Okay. We'll take one more question and then we will take the remaining ones next time. I want to end at 6 o'clock sharp. There's another program that's starting at 6 o'clock. So this person is saying, I have to confess that over the years, I've engaged in different types of forbidden sense gratification. I am trying to control them, replace the sense gratification and come closer to Krishna. Will my past offenses be forgiven by Lord Krishna? If so, then in what point will they be forgiven? So this is an interesting question. So we said that, by developing a loving relationship with Krishna, your past sins are forgiven and one can, make full progress and go back to Krishna. Even if you had a lot of sinful or pious activity credits, Krishna will take care of those, will write them off. So the question is, when will Krishna do that? So the direct answer is when there is pure love for Krishna in your heart. That is when he will write off or eradicate all the sinful reactions. But that is the direct answer, but not the real answer. The real answer is hidden in the direct answer, that when there is pure love for Krishna. Now, when there is pure love for somebody, you don't really care about the benefits that you get from that person. Pure love means unmotivated, unalloyed love. We will recall that very beautiful, very important verse, which I had shown a little while back. It's in Bhagavad Gita. It's not in the Bhagavad Gita, but it's one of the purports. So that's chapter 7, 16th verse. There is a verse quoted by Rupa Goswami which says, Anya bhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanu Sheelanam Bhaktir Uttama. So this is giving the definition of pure devotional service What is the pure devotional service? Which is without desire for material profit or gain. There should not be any desire for profit or gain. So that kind of devotional service is the highest. So when there is pure devotional service, one does not care when will Krishna forgive my sins. That becomes a small byproduct. But if you are loving Krishna and waiting, when will he forgive my sins? When will he forgive my sins? Oh, I have been loving you for such a long time. You still haven't forgiven my sins. That's not unmotivated. That is motivated. You're waiting out of the loving relationship. There's a motivation for that love. So that is not bhaktir uttama. That is little bit lower than uttama. So a pure devotee never cares when will Krishna forgive my sins. Krishna may or may not forgive your sins. So one should continue to, Krishna may not forgive all the sins, but your devotional service should not be dependent on that at all. Your unmixed, unalloyed devotional service to Krishna should continue regardless. Now, one thing I also want to add, how do you know if the sins have been eradicated? You won't know. Now, let's say if you say, this person didn't write that, but let's say if you say that it's because I'm still suffering. Okay. So suffering is not a sign, or pain, I'm experiencing pain, is not a sign for eradication of sins. Even if you are a pure devotee of Krishna, still there may be some pain. Okay, there will not be any suffering, but there might still be pain, because Krishna will give you so much strength to tolerate the pain and focus on him that the pain will not cause any suffering. But there may be pain. Look at the Pandavas. They went through so much pain, even though they were absolutely pure devotees of Krishna. Look at Prahlad. He was already such a wonderful devotee of Lord Vishnu. Still, he went through so much pain by his father, but he didn't feel it. He was perfectly happy. Okay, and perfectly happy in his devotion to Lord Krishna. So, and many other devotees and past acharyas have suffered pain, but they didn't suffer suffering. So again, don't measure, have my sins been eradicated? Why am I still feeling pain? So the result of pure devotion to Krishna is not material comfort. I am so peaceful, disease free, rich, and so happy materially. Everybody loves me. I have so much money. Krishna must be really happy with me. He must think I am his pure devotee. No, that's not the right way to think about it. Okay. And there are much deeper thoughts, which I'm not going to go into at the beginning level, about, I'll just give a hint for those who want to, read or something, that when Krishna is really, really interested in developing a relationship with you, he takes away the material comforts and he begins replacing those with spiritual comforts. And if you want to go deeper into it, you could read the prayers of Mother Kunti in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8. Mother Kunti is the mother of the Pandavas. So you can read her prayers, very deep and very, very, very hard to understand the thought there. But those are the prayers of the purest of pure forms. And also the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj to Narsingadev. You can read those and you can understand through those prayers the mood of pure devotees, the thought process of pure devotees you can understand. And all these kind of questions will get answered. Many of these questions will get answered by understanding the depths of those prayers. We'll stop here. I couldn't complete all the questions. There were more questions that I wanted to cover, but we will cover, and there are a lot of, I see questions on the chat. I will save those questions for next time, and I will make a copy of these questions and we'll cover the ones that are questions, there may be just simple thank yous and hello. But if there are any questions on the chat, I include those also in the next class. And anything that has been sent on the anonymous form with or without a name, we will include those as well. Okay, now I will take leave. Next time we will start with chapter 4. Thank you very much for being here. Hare Krishna.
Hare
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 Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.